everybody. I'm Erinn. Very nice to be here to present new standards in solo flute family music. So, as you may have noticed behind me, I have my flute, my piccolo, alto, and bass. So I'll be performing a little bit on each of these instruments for you today. First of all, I'd like to thank the New Music Festival for having me yet again. I love having this platform to present these wonderful works and to be able to share what the flute can do with the composer community that's brought together by Elizabeth Kowalski. So thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, New Music Festival. Also, if you have not already checked out New Music Festival on Facebook and on YouTube, please do so. You can like and subscribe and get all the newest content and keep up with everything that we have going on with the festival. So the first piece that I'd like to play is by Robert Dick. He is a composer, flutist slash composer, American, lives in New York City, born in 1950. And without Robert, I really don't think anything that we are doing in the flute community in terms of pushing the envelope of what the flute can do would be, well, it would be possible, but we might not be where we are today without Robert. He is just absolutely an extraordinary man, wonderful composer. He single-handedly figured out all of the sonic and multiphonic possibilities of what the flute can do. He was started on piano as a young boy and, learned how to play several notes at a time. And then he started flute and he learned one note at a time, scale. And his next question to his teacher was, well, when do I learn to play two notes at a time? And the teacher said, well, we don't do that on the flute. And of course he thought, well, we don't yet. So he has written a wonderful book called The Other Flute. If you ever need a resource of exactly what the flute can do, everything is laid out in that book. It's a fantastic resource for both flutists and performers. So he wrote a piece in 1984, actually, called Flying Lessons. And it's an etude collection that is supposed to introduce flutists and audiences to what the flute can do. So I'm going to play two short movements of Flying Lessons, number 1, from 1984. And in this, you will hear lots of multiphonics, timbral trills, singing and playing, key clicks, and including key clicks in which the embouchure hole is plugged, which makes the click sound a seventh below what the click is that you're doing. So there's or, which is really neat. So please enjoy movements 1 and 3 of Robert Dick, Flying Lessons, number 1. Thank you very much. Again, that was Robert Dick, Flying Lessons number 1 and 3. Numbers 1 and 3 from Flying Lessons number 1, volume 1. Obviously, you can hear Robert Dick was very influenced by what musicians can do in rock music with different effects of amplified guitar. And I always thought that that was such a wonderful part in his music. He has written so many flute pieces, piccolo pieces, flute family pieces. And if you were watching The Current, not last night, but a week ago from yesterday, if you saw the final group perform, Jill O'Neill was performing on a glissando head joint. He developed the glissando head joint. So he's just such an invaluable resource in the flute community. And again, just love him to death. The next piece that I'm going to perform, I'm excited. I've not performed it before. It is called Death Whistle, and it is by Nicole Chamberlaine. She is an Atlanta-based composer and flutist, and she wrote this piece on a commission by Dr. Elizabeth Robinson. Now, Elizabeth is the professor of flute at Missouri Southern State University. She's also the co-founder of the Flute New Music Consortium. So she contacted Nicole and said, you know, let's write a piece. Let's have a piece that shows some of maybe extended things that the piccolo is not normally known for. And so these 3 lovely movements came out of this. The titles are just as funny as the title of the overall work. The first movement is called Ear Knife. The second movement is Ballistophobia, and the third movement is Pickle Oh My God. Now, Ear Knife, Nicole writes this, Ear Knife spotlights the piccolo's ability to cut through with its razor-sharp high notes. So I think you know what you're going to hear there. The second movement, Ballistophobia, Ballistophobia is the fear of being shot, and this is a joke play on the very old orchestral joke, how do you get 2 piccolos to play in tune? You shoot one. Sadly, we We don't want to shoot our piccolo friends. And I have played in tune with many piccolo players. And the third movement started out as a joke, the hashtag Piccolo my God, because of this piece. And it just became the title of the third movement. So in this piece, you will hear some, I guess I would call it beatboxing, where you're saying different syllables while fingering and producing a tone. You'll hear some toneless noises and some pitch bends. The second movement features tongue rams, which I always find to be a very hysterical term that we have in flute and piccolo playing, where you push your tongue and your air directly into the embouchure hole and make a popping noise. So this is the first movement, Ear Knife, Death Whistle by Nicole Chamberlain. Thank you very much. Again, that was the three movements of Death Whistle. Death Whistle, easy for me to say. Death Whistle by Nicole Chamberlain. And I think you could hear the influence of whatever planet that was. Is it Jupiter? I can't remember. I've played the planets so many times. I should be able to remember off the top of my head, and I don't. So the next piece of music that I want to play, I'm going to stick with Piccolo. Piccolo is my day job. I am the piccolo player with the Charlotte Symphony. If you care to hear us, we are on Facebook, Charlotte Symphony. We also have a musicians page, Musicians of the Charlotte Symphony, on Facebook, where we post some kind of behind the scenes content. And I can't remember off the top of my head if we have a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. It's Dr. Erinn Frechette, the only one, so I'm easy to find. I also have a flute quartet called Flute 4. Very excited to work with the ladies in that quartet. It's me, Amy Singer-Whitehead from the Charlotte Symphony, Dr. Carolyn Ulrich from Greenville Symphony, and Carla Copeland-Burns, Dr. Carla Copeland-Burns from Duke University. And we are currently trying to get coordinated to record a CD or whatever is recorded these days. I guess everything lives in the cloud. And also we are thinking about putting out a call for scores. So stay tuned. If we do, or when we do, I will be sure to put that on the New Music Festival's Facebook page. So the next piece of music that I want to play is called Bittersweet Music I. This is by Lam Bunqing. She is a Chinese composer. This was composed in 1981. So again, something that's not completely brand new, but a lot of times these pieces, especially for piccolo, get composed and then there's just not a lot of interest in playing and hearing them. Thankfully, interest in the piccolo has gone way up in the past several years. And these wonderful pieces that showcase what the piccolo can do are now being performed more than ever. So this piece, she writes, Bittersweet Music is a series of pieces for solo instruments. They are mostly virtuosic in nature, and Bittersweet Music I for piccolo explores the expressive capacity and timbral possibilities of this instrument, making use of its low register, multiphonics, and microtones. And what I really love about some of the composers who are writing for piccolo currently is that most of it is staying down in the low register where the instrument is very sweet, very woody, and just this lovely, gorgeous, dark tone. And then with, saving the higher stuff for real dramatic impact. So I really enjoy that. So as you heard, this piece will feature some microtonality, a few multiphonics, but I think all of them are just in octaves. Short 3-page piece, Bittersweet Music I by Bunqing Lam. Thank you. If anybody has any questions about what I'm doing, something that you've heard and or seen, and you would like more information, feel free to type it in the comments. I'm trying to keep up. Thank you for all the clapping and stuff. It's very odd to be playing for a computer screen. I said the other night, Piccolo or flute concerts in general in the age of COVID are not getting a thumbs up from me. But I am really happy to be here and have all of you here sharing this with me. So the next piece I'm going to play is by Lowell Liebermann. I'm sure many of you have heard of Lowell. He's a New York City-based composer, very well known, writes for all different instruments. And he wrote this piece in 1997, 8 pieces for whatever flute you want to play them on. So you as the performer have the choice: flute, piccolo, alto, bass. I suppose you could even perform these on a contrabass. Might be a little tricky though. So I'm going to stay on the lower end of the flute family for these pieces. So no matter which instrument we're playing in the family, the key work is the same. So whether we have the longer alto flute, which you can see is, let me go back up a little bit, about a quarter longer than the flute, or whether you have the piccolo, which is half size, the keys are the same. They're just on top of each other on the piccolo. They're more spread out on the alto. They're even more spread out on the bass, and the bass is so long, of course, you have to have a curved head joint. With the contrabass flute, it stands on the floor and it comes up and makes like a floor-shaped instrument. So the lower you go, the more the instruments are a little more reactive. One of the problems with manufacturing flutes is we don't have a true octave key. If you're a woodwind performer, you'll know what I'm talking about. So we have our fundamental fingerings, and then 2 notes in which we have a sort of functioning octave key. And then beyond that, from here to there, is the same fingerings as the low octave. So we do the work to get the correct octave to come out with our mouths and our throat, how we angle the airstream and how we tune in our throats. So the lower instruments, they get a little bit more temperamental because they don't have a functioning octave key. And I'm only going to do one of these Lowell Liebermann pieces on bass flute because it is just so god-awful to play. I love the sound of it, but it is really not fun. But I do really enjoy playing alto. It's not much lower than the flute. It's still pretty workable. And if I had the money and could spend a considerable amount on buying a handmade alto, I'm sure it would make it slightly easier. But this is what I've got, and it does just great. So I'm not going to play all of Lowell's 8 pieces. I'm going to play movement 1, Ophelia, movement 2, Etude, movement 3, Forgotten Waltz, and movement 6, Cipher. And that movement is the one that I'm going to switch to bass flute. If you will please indulge me, the instrument is so big and heavy, I will need to sit down. So for that movement, I'm just going to plop down real quick and then I'll pop back up. So these are 4 of the 8 pieces for whatever flute you choose by Lowell Liebermann. I love that. Such a gorgeous and haunting and beautiful sound. I just wish it was more fun to play. Maybe I need to like do some push-ups or I don't know, core strength or something. It weighs a metric ton. And as you can see, there's a little half mustache on the bottom because holding it literally to get the keys and your hand to work, you need that distance. So it's a fun thing. I'd also like to thank Wingate University, where I'm adjunct professor of flute, because this is their their bass flute. I don't have the money sitting around to buy one of my own. So I have 2 pieces left, and I am so excited about the next one. This is Plumismo by Adina Izzara. Now, when I was approached by Elizabeth and she asked if I wanted to do a solo flute recital, of course I jumped on it. Yes, I do. And I told her, well, I'm going to select from, these pieces. I kind of have these sitting out and working on these, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't include this one. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, I want to perform this one again. This is, I think I just said, Plumismo by Adina Izzara. She is a Venezuelan composer. This was composed in 1986. A lot of 80s music here, but I guess I am a child of the 80s, so it fits. This is for solo piccolo. And, excuse me, in this you are going to hear a lot of bird-like playing. So I love birds. I wish I had time to be more into birds and ornithology. Maybe, someday when I retire or whatever. But I love sitting and listening to the sound of bird calls in my neighborhood, or when I go for a walk in the park, or even watching online. I was just watching a video literally this morning of this huge bird. I don't remember what it was, this big, and it was doing this kind of flutter tongue, and its whole body was shaking, and it was great. It's wonderful to watch. And I think one of the things I love most about bird calls is how they can simultaneously be so melodic, so beautiful, but also so mechanical. They'll do the same call over and over and over and over, and it never varies. It's so great. The pitch and the speed and how they trill between notes. It's just like a little machine. And you will definitely hear that in this piece. So again, we are doing extended techniques on a regular piccolo. So this is not modified in any way. All keys are here. There's no rings. There are ringed piccolos and pieces composed for ring piccolos in which you can do many more multiphonics. Now you can't do those on a regular keyed piccolo. But in this, you will hear microtones, flutter tonguing, whistle tones, which, if I play them correctly, should sound like a little teapot going off. And a jet whistle in which we forcefully blow and get a very gusty, kind of piercing wind sound. So this is Plumismo Adina Izara for solo piccolo, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy playing it. one of my favorites. And I'm going to conclude today with something I put in the title of today's performance, New Standards in Flute Music. I'm not sure how standard anything has been that I've performed so far, but this really is a standard. So this is Winter Spirits by Catherine Hoover. She's an American flutist / composer, and she just passed away in 2018. It was a big loss for the flute community. She started composing in college. Now, she was born in 1937. She did her undergraduate at Eastman and was basically told, women aren't composers, what are you doing? And so she went, I don't know, and kind of stopped composing, but picked it up again a little bit later in life and had studied with some notable composers. And she ended up being one of the flute community, certainly in our community, most notable composers. She writes beautifully for the instrument because she knows the instrument. And her work shows so many influences and such wonderful variety. She has a couple of pieces that are written for solo flute. The one I'm going to play is Winter Spirits. I know it's 1,000 degrees in Charlotte with about 110% humidity, but I like to think of this piece as a timeless, non-season specific work for flute. And it certainly sounds like it could be, spring breeze or summer flowers. In this piece, you will hear a very strong influence of the Hopi tribe, Native American tribe of southwestern United States. And she, in my rudimentary analysis, has composed this piece around 2 pitch sets, one with a flat, and then one with naturals. And you will hear her go back and forth between those as she goes back and forth between different sections of the piece. So thank you again so much for joining me today. I have really looked forward to playing all of this music, even in this very strange circumstance without seeing you all face to face. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the live chat or get in touch with me. My website is www.frechetteflute.com. I'm really easy to find. I'm the only Erinn Frechette anywhere, and I would be happy to speak with anybody who has any questions. much for being here, and I hope you enjoyed all of these selections. I so enjoy performing them for you, and I hope you will take away some of the possibilities and wonderful things that we can do in the flute family today. So thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'll stay on here for enharmonic. Yes, Karen, there's a fly attacking me. Ah. If I'm not mistaken, she just timed her vibrato with enharmonic trill. Yes, because Karen, if you're a flute player, you know that some flutes can have a splitting mechanism. I do not have a splitting mechanism on my flute. I don't like it. So she has a timbral trill of A to A. So yeah, I'm trying to time the vibrato. Oh, you play euphonium. I know nothing about euphonium. We go wins. So yeah, there is a much more noticeable difference of that timbral trill. It was actually used in Plumismo. If I do it on Piccolo, which most professional Piccolos come standard with the splitty, I can't not have it. So you get much more of a pitch difference on a flute without a splitting mechanism, which essentially closes this key without closing this key. You don't get as much difference. Especially in the low register. So yeah, I was trying to bring out the fact that something is happening there because I don't have as much of a pitch bend on my flute. So great observation, and thanks for the compliment, because yeah, it's not easy to time your vibrato, especially after you're tired of playing all this crazy piccolo stuff. So thanks. I don't think I see any other questions, but like I said, if anybody has, no one has bass flute bunny. Yeah, seriously, even a cheap one is way more than I can afford to spend. Yay, piccolo piece. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. It's frechetteflute.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm actually Lucy McGillicuddy on Facebook. It's I Love Lucy. It's her maiden name on the show, Lucy McGillicuddy. But I'm the only Lucy McGillicuddy. And if you can't find me, you can always reach out through Elizabeth. So thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, New Music Festival, again, for giving me a space to perform and be able to share some of this awesome flute music with all of you. So thank you. And yes, Nozomi, you can go finish laundry. I'm going to go cook dinner. All right. Thank you all, and I hope to see you again in person in the future without a fly attacking me. Okay, bye.